The backwoods, extreme haunts, douchebags. Welcome to the Mostly Pod Out at Night. Mostly, I am Graveyard, joined by my co-host Salem. This is episode 114 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. We are now in the October Spooktacular 2024. What makes us scared? How extreme is too extreme? And fuck McKamey Manor.
You don't like McKamey Manor?
No.
I mean, that guy's... Sorry, I'm going to have a little aside about... McKamey Manor is like one of those things that's like, oh, if you get through this, haunted house, you get $10,000. And that would be fine if there's like, hey, here's point A where you start and here's point B where you stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no one has ever completed it. And that's simply because he won't let them. Like, you cannot complete it because he just keeps adding things on.
Right.
Like, I think the record is, like some girl went through it for like 15 hours. It's like, you can't tell me that he had 15 hours of stuff planned. Like, no, he was just doing stuff until you give up. Because eventually, like, no matter how psychologically strong you are, no matter how powerful that willpower is, you will give up because your brain just gets tired.
Well, and the thing is, if you watch, the Making the Monster, whatever that is, right, is that he keeps them up for like a day beforehand too. So they're already going into it exhausted.
Right.
And then he goes, all right, now let me torture you.
Right. And that's, and again, if that, that's okay if that's a part of it because you sign the release, you agree to do it. Like, if you don't want to stay up the night before, you don't have to do it. But like, again, there should be a defined endpoint. And like, again, the documentary about it is like, you look at the contract, there's no defined endpoint.
Nope.
It's whenever he decides you're done. And he's such a dick that he literally will not let you finish. Like, you could do it for 15 hours and he still says you lost. Like,
Yep.
that is insane to me. Like, why anybody would follow the guy. I mean, obviously he's been kicked out of like every state he's been in, and now he's like, he has to do it in his backyard because that's all he has left. But yeah, it's bullshit. I don't know why anybody gets into that stuff, but I mean, extreme haunted houses is, I have no interest in that, but I guess spoiler alert.
Yeah. And obviously we are talking about the two movies of The Houses That October Built, which is part documentary, part mockumentary, I'd say. As they go into real places, and then they add, maybe 20 minutes of the hour and 40 minutes of their own shit. But yes, so we've talked about The Houses October Built. The first one came out in 2014. The second one came out in 2017. And, this is going to be probably a shorter episode just because there's not a lot to talk about, honestly, in these movies.
Yeah, there really isn't.
So let's start off with The Houses That October Built in 2014. So essentially we are, led to a group of 5 friends. I'll use the word friends very loosely at this point in time.
Yeah, colleagues.
Colleagues. You have 2 brothers, Mikey and Rob. And then you have Brandy, Jeff, and I can't think of the other guy's name, quite honestly.
The brothers are what, Mikey and Bobby?
Bobby. Zach.
Yeah, I was going to say Mikey,
Yeah.
Bobby,
Yeah.
Jeff, Zach, Brandy. Not that it really matters.
So they are in the South looking for kind of like the most extreme haunts. They're making a documentary about it, and they're just trying to figure out what is the best place to go. And we start off kind of like 5 days till Halloween, 5 or 6 days, and they're filming, like I said, trying to find the most haunts. So cue essentially a montage of extreme haunts, them interviewing real people, real haunted attractions, and trying to figure out like what makes people tick, how extreme is too extreme, how do they draw that line, right? Every place to talk to everyone kind of has the same story, like, well, we try to find that line and get as close to as possible. Right? It's like I said, a lot of the places look really fun. I am not going to deny that. But then they're kind of going like, okay, we're trying to find this most extreme haunt, and everyone's like, oh man, you got to find the blue skeleton. Like, okay, well, how do we find it? Well, you essentially just got to ask around. It's kind of like that communication of haunted houses, this network that they seem to have, and they're just trying to find it. And they're getting little hints of things here and there. So they kind of go into one haunted house, and they're like, okay, well, there's a skull mask, because that's so uncommon in haunted attractions to find people in skull masks.
Yeah. Stupid.
Yes. So essentially, they're going around. They see, I'd say, a girl clown with like, wisps of hair left on her, and then she's like, okay, she's a little creepy.
Yeah, I think imagine Slipknot baby doll.
Yes,
and that's where you're at.
Or just a more Halloween-ish, the Stranger's baby doll mask.
Yeah, but it's like a whole head mask, right?
Right. So, essentially they do that. They are filming, one part. They're like, there's a concert going on there, and they climb on top of like a barn and start recording it. And people are like, okay, you can't be doing this. We don't really allow, photography or video recording. Blah 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 blah. So eventually they said, hey, you have to go try to find this guy in Louisiana, right? So they go to the bar, and it is a
Giggles. They have to go find Giggles.
Yeah, it is a hick bar, and they're just like, oh man, we're trying to find this extreme haunt, the blue skeleton. How do we do that? And so, I think they kind of go around New Orleans area and kind of find stuff, and like, oh man, this is weird. But anyway, while they're at that bar, essentially Brandy is almost accosted, right? And she's like, okay, this is getting a little ridiculous. We really can't do that anymore. But essentially, they've already made this essentially deal with Blue Skeleton. They just don't necessarily know it, to the point where they start seeing that Slipknot baby doll girl multiple places. To the point where it's like she shows up like a different state and is there, and for some reason Mikey invites her into the Winnebago.
Well, okay, like obviously we know it's the same person. Obviously everyone knows it's the same person, but for like the point of the movie, they have to pretend like it's not the same person. And then like afterwards they're like, isn't that the girl from the other haunted house? Like, dude,
it's very obvious.
Like, how many people do you see that look the exact same way? Like, come on.
Yeah. So, like, she doesn't say anything, but like Mikey just lets her in there, and she just kind of looks at them like, okay, this is.
Yeah, it's very bizarre scene, because when she comes on, they're like, oh, you let her in, and she's like, I just followed her. What do you mean? You just walked out of the fucking Winnebago like not even 4 seconds ago, and then she came on. Like, you didn't like motion for her to come in or anything. She just started walking in, and you just followed her, not saying a word.
Yeah,
it's like, I don't know. It's like they intentionally were out of the way to like make this person like super creepy, and then she just like sits there, doesn't say anything, and then she just starts screaming, and they all just like stare at her.
Yep.
Like there's no reaction whatsoever. They just stare at her, and then after she's done screaming, she gets up and walks away.
Yep.
And then they just go like, that was weird. Like,
let's continue. Yeah.
Right. And then they're like, wasn't that the girl from the other haunted house? Like, are you fucking retarded? What are you doing? Like, come on, guys.
Yeah. So anyway, that happens, and kind of like after they said they see some more, find the one skeleton mask guy in New Orleans during Halloween. It's absurd. And so they are kind of just going that, and then eventually, there is someone that breaks into their Winnebago and like records them sleeping, and they're like, oh, it can't be any of us because we're all sleeping here. And they find it just magically online. And they open up like their fridge, and there's like a heart in there. And then we just get the unnecessary puking scene because of it. So that's kind of all happening. Eventually they find their way, to the quote blue skeleton area, and they're like, all right, cool. And they all get like accosted in an alleyway, kind of drugged out. And this is where the documentary part really ends. And we get into their part of it, right? So they're getting text messages saying that you have to get out of there and all this stuff has to happen. And we kind of really just follow Brandy for the most part at this point in time, right? Where she's kind of being led around and sees that essentially lots of her friends are being, bludgeoned to death or, tongues cut out and all this shit that's going on in there, right? And eventually she gets put into, the trunk of a car and is driven out to really the middle of nowhere and essentially buried alive in coffins. I think there's a few coffins, I believe, right?
Well, they only show her.
Yeah.
But
it's alluded to that they all have their own.
Right, but in the ending, like, discussions and the discussions in the beginning of the second movie, they do all say that they were all in there, but they never show any footage of the other people being in a coffin. So they all kind of suggest that they all were put in coffins, but we only see Brandy.
Right, and that's really how the movie ends. It's just like, they found blue skeleton, and it's, too extreme. Like, this is like a thing that they just go around burying people alive, killing people, etc.
Well, they don't kill anybody. They never say that they kill people.
Yeah, I mean, but it is, they are physically hurting them.
Yeah, unconsensually forcing them to do haunted house stuff. Yes.
Yeah. Really end up movie. I don't remember how this came onto my radar because I think I watched it. It might have been right before number 2 came out, or when number 2 came out. I know I watched both of them. I know you hadn't even heard of these until
I had not even heard them at all until you put them on the list. I thought you wrote the name down wrong because it doesn't look correct.
I agree.
The houses that October built is weird. And also, when you're doing searches for them, there's like weird, like sometimes they call it like the houses that Halloween built or something. There's like an alternate name somewhere. I don't
know. Yeah. But these are found footage movies. I don't know if we really pointed out, but they are definitely found footage. Now I enjoy these movies for what they are. I know, you have different thoughts. I've rewatched them probably a couple times at this point, but what was your initial thought on this first watch?
Here's how it goes. The part where they're actually doing the documentary part, like they're going to the different haunted houses. They're like, kind of showing the camera view of like what it looks like to go through it. They're talking to the people that work there. They're talking to people that like enjoy it. They're talking to the owners of the places and like, like events that or, things that have, happened there, stuff like that. When they're doing like the real stuff, this is an actual interesting movie. When they're doing their own original, content, it's dumb as shit. And it is bad. I mean, the acting is fucking terrible. Like, things that are completely obvious to everyone are like just looked over because the script says so. I mean, it's ridiculous. The original part of this film is not good. I think the documentary part of it is interesting. Like, if this whole movie was the documentary, it would have a lot different score than the one I'm going to give it, because that was good and that was interesting. As soon as they get into their quote unquote original content, it's just not good.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand your qualms with it. Like, while doing this research for this, I found out that 3 years before this one came out, they actually did a documentary. Like, it was a pure documentary over haunted attractions. So it seems like they go, hey, what if these extreme haunts were real, or, Blue Skeleton could exist? Because there's always that urban legend of someone that dies at a haunted house, and it's just really just marketing employees, right?
Right. But I mean, the thing, I don't know if, I'm sure they know the subculture, because if they've done documentaries, at least they did half of a documentary about this thing. Like, you have to know that, like, it's kind of strange, because if you've ever been a little bit deeper into the haunted house world, it's very kind of closely related to like the BDSM world.
Mm-hmm.
So where everything is very based on consent. Like, if you sign a waiver and you go into these extreme haunted houses and you say, yeah, you can touch me, you can do whatever to, like, bring me into this experience, but they always give you like a fucking safe word.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's always like, if you want to get out, you can get out. Like, some people hit their limits, and some people, there's some things that they can handle all kinds of crazy shit, but some things they just can't handle. And, obviously they're not going to tell you what everything's involved before you go into it, because that ruins a lot of it. Right. So they're always very, very careful that people only do what they want to do. You know what I mean? If they want to leave, they can leave. If they don't want to experience it, they don't have to experience it. It's a big thing in that community.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie kind of cancels that out, in being like the quote unquote ultimate experience is non-consensual.
Right. Or McKamey Manor, essentially.
Well, McKamey Manor is consensual. I mean, it's ridiculous, but you do sign a waiver, and these people do go out of their way to seek him out, to ask to go into it. He doesn't like go recruiting. He doesn't have to. There's a line of idiots around the block that, are waiting list to get into his stupid manor, right? But again, they always sign release forms, and when they say they're done, it's done. Even McKamey Manor does that. When they quit, they quit. They're out. You're done. Have you ever like watched that like actual haunting footage of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. When they're done, they're done. Like, when they say, I can't do it anymore, I want to give up, they say, like, are you sure? Are you really want to do that? They try to like sort of convince you to stay. But if you say, I am done, I'm absolutely out, you are done. I mean, they have the whole like, oh, you get whatever $10,000 if you complete the whole thing, which has never happened. But so obviously you're not going to get the $10,000, but they don't try to hold you against your will, and that's the thing that I think they get wrong in this movie, and they like totally miss the point of that community. Like, why are you going to have half of it be a documentary about that community, and then the second half is something that goes against everything they stand for? Really bothered me about this movie.
Right. It's essentially, what if, Russ was as crazy as people think he is?
Right. Well, if it would be like, what do you think he is, without looking at any of the background? Like, without understanding that there's a consensual thing, without understanding that these people willingly go on a list and willingly travel out there to do it.
Right.
Like, if you see it from the surface, like if you're like, clutching your pearls, like, oh my God, that's horrible. But you don't know the story behind it. Sure. You would think that Blue Skeleton is the scariest thing ever. But in this world, it's like that would never happen.
Right.
Because again, in this first film, I mean, we already went through the recap, but in this first film, they don't try to kill anybody. They're just essentially putting you through like this personalized, extreme haunt situation that you survive, but like you're fucked up, right? And like this is probably going to give you psychological trauma, like it's that bad. But they do it against your will. They do it against your consent, which is not right. That doesn't make sense. Now, if somebody were to be like, again, if they had the mentality of this change to be like, okay, all these people think these, extreme haunts are great. Well, we're going to start fucking putting people through real torture and fucking murdering them to show the world what real fucking, this shit really is. That would be one thing. And that I would understand. That would be a motive I would get, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this, like, oh, we have the greatest extreme haunted house experience ever, and we're going to randomly pick people without their consent to put them through it. Like, that does not make any sense to me. If that was real, and they just wanted to put people through their extreme haunted house, they might pick people, but they would have to consent to it, and they would probably have to pay for it because that shit ain't cheap.
Oh, the production value on this free thing, yeah, it's
right. But again, like McKamey Manor makes money; they have to pay to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, yeah, if you make it all the way to the end, you'll get $10,000, right? But like,
never gonna happen.
Right, it's not gonna happen. But you have to pay to get in there.
Right.
So like, all of these extreme haunted house experiences, you got to pay a lot of money to do it. Right.
It's personalized and it goes. Right. You only do like one a day at max.
Right. So like Blue Skeleton, literally on Halloween, they only have these 5 people that they're putting through this,
mm-hmm.
like without any further backstory. If these were like the people that, were like super big and known for like reviewing haunted house things, I could see how they'd want to do that in a guerrilla way to like put their name out there. And I guess that's kind of what they were going for here, but going out of their way to show that this was non-consensual. Like it would be a lot cooler is if, they signed this consent form being, oh, how bad can it be? And then this is how bad it is. That would be one thing.
Right. You could almost argue that we just didn't see it, that the douchebags did sign the consent form, but Brandy didn't.
Well, again, you can't do that.
I know.
I mean, again, it's still, even if they did, knowing what the second one is, we'll get there.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, they might have done that, but that still goes against everything they stand for.
Yeah.
Again, like there is a way to do this without breaking the rules of that whole community, and they just didn't follow it. And it's very off-putting to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get into our highlights then and low points. All right. So I'll go first for my highlights. I mean, like I said, the idea behind it's that local legend, right? It is taking that idea to it, right? Everyone talks about like, oh, this most haunted house, right? So by me that I grew up with, Reaper's Realm, right? Takes place in a building that was reportedly been haunted for 100 years. Like I said, is that all just hearsay? Is that all just local legends? I mean, yeah, did someone die during construction of that building? Yes, that is a documented case. But, it is just that. It is just, marketing. Like I said, I like the idea of going around to these, extreme haunted houses. I think, Travel Channel or Food Network did something like this like 10 years ago. Some place did it, like the Halloween, did like a season or two of trying to find the most extreme haunts or like the best haunted attractions in the country, which I really like the idea. I mean, that's a great way to market and to get people to see it. So I like the fact that they got real places to do it. And when they are talking to real life people in an unscripted manner and having a conversation, it works really well as a documentary.
Right.
So I really enjoy that. Does it? I think it'd be fun to go do something like that. Do I get scared by that stuff? No. I mean, is it just relying on jump scares? It is. Obviously, some of the extreme stuff is trying to be as fucked up as humanly possible, but you still know it's fake. So realistically, it's just jump scares, right? You always see the photographs of like, people in the elevator, all of a sudden, like the car headlights are coming at them as the elevator door opens, right? And you always see like those stills of people reaction that they can't see anything, but the way the pictures are taken, we can see it. I think there's an entire subreddit to it at one point. So it does seem fun. Do I want to necessarily do that now? Now that I'm 40, maybe not, but it still seems interesting to me. And if you don't know the number 2 of this, if you haven't watched the second one of this, at this point in time, it seems like a bad ending. You're left with like, holy shit, what is actually going on there? Because we don't really get closure to anything. And I do think it's a bad ending.
Well, they don't. It's not a bad ending. They just don't have an ending. The ending is offloaded onto the sequel.
Right.
The sequel has an ending. it doesn't make sense that it doesn't. I understand that they're trying to like show you that it's scary, but like it's just, I don't know. The whole second half of this film is just a mess.
But it still leaves you questioning. They don't really give you answers. So what is going on there? How extreme is this? You don't necessarily know. So I do appreciate that. And it's a decent found footage film for what it is. Like I said, I think incorporating the real elements really helps it a lot. Like if this was all made up, I don't think it would be anywhere as good. You know what I mean? We see that their suit of writing the scripted part of it versus the real life part of it. So like I said, I always find that stuff interesting, of seeing other haunts and people's reactions and stuff like that too. So it's a good way to bring these attractions to the limelight. Those are my highlights. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree with you about the haunted houses looked fun. I mean, I've been through a few, and they're fun. They're fun to experience. I mean, I think some people get a little too annoying in them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like some people are like convinced they can scare you, and that's the part that I really don't like. Like if you just want to show me a bunch of like cool, evil looking stuff, that's awesome. That's great. Mm-hmm. You know, give me a couple of jump scares. I don't blame you for that. That's what you're doing. that's your job. But you get those people that like, run up to you like, oh, you scared? They like yell in your ear and they like follow you around and like creep over you. Like, I'm not scared. I don't like people that I don't know touching me or near me. Like, I don't know you. Please go away.
Hey, theater actors need jobs.
I'm just saying, like, that's why I really don't like going to them, because there's always those people that take it too far. Like going through the haunted house and seeing like, a messed up carnival, a messed up strip club, whatever it is, like show me evil stuff all the time. That's great. And I love it. Mm-hmm. Jump scares, again, I'm not a big fan of them, but I totally understand why they're there. I'm not going to complain about it. Right. But like those people that take it a little too far, I'm not, the guy that, chases you with the chainsaw, that's his job, right? He sparks the ground, you go, and you just try to get away from him. That's fine. But some people just can't leave you alone. Like they have to like chase you around. And because I'm a big guy with a beard, right? They always like, I'm going to scare that guy. That's my challenge, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not going to be scared of you. I understand this is a fictional thing. But like I'm uncomfortable because you're getting too close to me. Like that's what like I have anxiety. I'm not afraid of you because of what you are. That's what you think it is. It's not that. I just don't like people that I don't know getting close to me. Mm-hmm. I just don't like it. Like I have a hard time getting a haircut because it's somebody I don't know touching me in a situation where you kind of feel like you're trapped. That's what I don't like. So, I mean, I have as much fear of those people as I do of getting a haircut, which is, I'm not afraid of the thing at all. It's just the situation.
Right.
And I don't like it. But anyway, I do like the haunted houses. They look cool. They look fun. Mm-hmm. The performers, a lot of them look like they're having fun. And a lot of them look like, it's just like their outlet, right? Their creative kind of outlet where they get to like be whatever they want to be. And as long as they're not, those people that push it over the line, which are usually like those kind of alpha nerds, right, that do that kind of stuff. That's, but they generally look like they're having fun. Like the people that own the places, when they were talking about their place, they seem like genuinely excited,
Yeah.
They're like hyping up, oh yeah, somebody died in there. Oh, there's real human remains in there. Like just, again, they're just hyping it up. They seem really excited. That like they're into it. Hey, that's great.
Yeah,
nothing wrong with that. It seemed fun. But yeah, I mean, like that kind of stuff was great. Like the first half of this film was fun. Mm-hmm. I'll roll into my low points. That's all I got. But the low point is basically all of the original content in this movie is just not good. Again, there's a lot of dumbass weed humor, which I hate. I know you don't care either way, but
no, I don't care either way.
I just hate it. I can't stand it. It's like low hanging fruit. It's like the dumbest form of humor to me, but yeah, they have a lot of that. How many cameras did they have strapped to the outside of that RV?
At least 5.
Right. They're like showing like the front of it. They're showing like the wheel while they're driving. Right.
The top of it. Yeah.
And then when like anything happens outside the RV, all of a sudden the exterior cameras don't work. It's like, okay, so while we're driving, we have like 10 different angles of the tires rolling on the road. And then when somebody bangs on the outside of the window, nobody can see anything. It's just so dumb. I don't understand. Well, oh, we got all these GoPros. Let's just strap them all over, but don't use the footage when it actually means something. Brandy is obviously there for a reason, right? She's just there because she's the one that's going to scream every time there's a scare, right? Because these other guys are too tough guys. They can't scream when they're scared. So they have to have someone that actually acts scared because the tough guys can't. It was just so obvious why she was there. And it was just like, guys, come on. You can be scared. Like, for some reason, it's okay for them to, like, puke because they see a raw heart on a plate. But it's too much for them to act scared. It was like, it's so bizarre. It's like, I don't know if the guys were like, oh, guys won't get scared at this kind of stuff. Like, I don't know who wrote this shit, but like the only person that they can show being fearful is Brandy. I feel bad for her.
Yeah.
Everybody else has got to be alpha male tough guy. Like when the one performer like confronts them about filming in the haunted house after they were told not to. You know what I mean? Like, that guy is seen as like the crazy person, right? Like, oh, we didn't do it, when they obviously just showed footage of them doing just that.
Climbing on top of the barn or whatever the hell that was. Yeah.
Right. Like, you obviously did what you were told not to do. He has every right to get angry with you. Like, he wasn't throwing punches. He was just, he's talking like a tough guy. Sure. And they showed them like, puffing up their chest, like, oh, you better not mess with us. Like, better not, we're going to do something bad to you. Like, and then Brandy is just like standing there and they're like, go, get in the RV. Like, you can't be here. And she just goes, okay. And just runs away. It was like, I feel like it was the scene that they wanted to like this is going to get us girls, them seeing us protecting, Brandy in this movie. Like, I don't know. It just felt like alpha males, like that mentality was part of this script. And it was very like off. It was like, again, they were insufferable people. Like, all 4 of the guys are just these insufferable assholes. I think the only guy that was like okay was Jeff, the farm boy.
Well, he was the camera guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he was like the camera guy. He wasn't really a big actor, and he was like the only one that was like tolerable because he was just kind of like there. Right? He didn't like do anything else, but the other 3 were just horrible shit people. Like, I would not want to be around them at all. Like, they are just like loud and annoying and getting in everybody's fucking shit. And like, yeah, of course they're gonna get angry at you because you're being a fucking asshole. But again, we already talked a lot about the whole consent and release forms and like, again, discounting the whole first half of the movie with this bizarre second half that doesn't make any sense. And then Brandy, like, I feel so bad. It's like, so long to feminism because she just like backs down when the guys immediately say anything. They go in the RV. Okay. Like, she immediately runs in there. Like, she's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Okay, well, we're doing it. And she just does it. Like, she doesn't ever talk back or fight back or do anything. We're talking about the first movie here.
Yeah.
But, in this movie, she literally just does exactly what they tell her. And I think they got some pushback from that because I think that's why they changed it significantly in the second one. It was just like, it felt very bad. Like, again, you could tell alpha male people were involved in the writing of this script because, yeah, again, the woman has no right to say or refuse to do anything. She has to just go along whatever they want to do. And they have to be the tough guys. They can't ever be scared. So she's there to like show how scary things are. Like, any scene that like shows a jumper, a scream, or people being scared, it's her.
Right.
Whenever they show the guys, it's like, oh, I have to protect you. Oh, this seems like it's going too far. It's like they have to be tough guys the whole time. It was, I don't know, very upsetting. I did not like it at all. I didn't like the whole vibe of the second half of it. That's all I
got. Yeah, I agree. They all suck. It's like, especially when you know what's coming up in the second one. If you watch the second one, you realize how much they suck. and they are just complete and utter assholes. They do treat Brandy like absolute shit. You know what I mean? She's like, oh, she's the face. She's the, everyone wants to have the pretty girl in front and do all the stuff. Yeah, you're right. She's there for the scream factor. And that's it. Obviously vomit is awful no matter what. We don't need to show it.
Well, they didn't really show vomit. They just showed him literally dry heaving like a fucking bear for like 5 minutes. Like the whole scene, he's like, dude, can you fucking gag any quieter, please? Dear God.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get into the vomit part in the second one a little bit more.
Yeah, yeah. That one is much worse.
I don't know if anyone's ever been inside in like RV, but it's fucking loud. Like, I think they try to explain it in the second one a little bit more, but like, there's no way someone would be able to sneak into an RV and have no one notice it. Like, it's a confined space. Like, you're gonna know that someone's walking around in there. So it makes zero sense for them to go like, oh, I don't remember this at all. Like I said, I think they try to explain it away in the second one as why that doesn't make any sense.
True. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, for me, I mean, I'm paranoid. I'm a very paranoid person, and I'm especially paranoid when I'm sleeping. If a sound happens anywhere near me, I am immediately awake.
Right, and this is annoying. Yeah.
But again, I'm not saying, no, I know a lot of people will sleep through anything. I'm not saying that a lot of people are like that, but I'm saying like out of the 5 of them, I would imagine that at least one of them would have heard something.
Right. There's no way they didn't. And especially like, I can generally sleep anywhere, but like unknown locations that I'm not used to, it's hard for people to sleep. Especially as at that point in time, weird shit's already been going on. Right? Like they slept like nothing's wrong.
Well, it apparently didn't lock the door.
Well, that too. Which is stupid. It's just some of the things make zero sense in this movie when it comes to, like as you said, their part of it that they wrote. So
like I said, I think it would have made much more sense and made much more narrative sense if they would have had them like get approached by the Blue Skeleton people being like, oh, we're the most extreme haunt out there, but we can't tell you what's going on. It's an experience, right? You have to follow these kind of scavenger hunt clues before you get to the actual hunt, because it's haunt because it's, our experience that we crafted. And tricking them into signing a release form at that point would have fixed all the issues that I had.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very simple scene to have done. I think it would have added a lot more mystery to it if they did it that way.
Right. That you find out that, yes, they signed something, but the stipulation is you don't know when or where or how.
Right. And again, like signing something doesn't mean you know what's going to happen.
Right.
It's just like, oh, like these tough alpha males could have like signed this thing, and they could have probably intimidated Brandy into doing it too, because that's what they've done the whole film up to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it doesn't go outside of character for them to sign this stuff. And it also maintains the character of that whole community.
Right.
Like again, like how you have a documentary in the first half and then the second half that like goes counter to a lot of what they believe in. It's just bizarre. And I think like one little scene would have fixed the whole thing.
Well, I mean, I've seen stuff where people go, you're going to sign up for a kidnapping that you don't know when or where it's going to happen. You just know it's going to happen, and you try to get test your survival skills in that situation.
Right. But you sign up for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's consensual.
Right.
And it's something that if you want to get out of, you can give up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like if you get, those obviously in the military, there's not, because they're training military personnel, right? But they're not going to let you die either. But obviously you have a hell of a lot less of a leash there, right? But if you're a civilian, can you imagine a company that allowed someone to fucking die? They would never get business again. So of course there's going to be a way out. Right. There's always a way out. There'll be a flare you can shoot up or some shit. But again, You know what I mean? Like everybody is, it's all about consent. It's all about an experience that you are doing. Obviously, a lot of people, you know, they want to experience like being thrown out in the middle of nowhere and how would they survive? They want, that's what they want. But again, if they get to the point where real danger is happened, like there should be a way out for safety. Right. And that's how these haunted houses are. I mean, if you've ever been to any of the, like the, you know, quote unquote extreme ones,
right,
they're very, very much like BDSM communities where like they won't do anything to you that you're not into. And if they start doing something that you're not into, you say you're safe for it and it stops.
Yep.
And it's very much that way. And it's, I just don't like the second half of this countering all of
that. Right. And lastly, trying to find one person with a skeleton mask, like absurd.
On Bourbon Street.
Like, how hard did it? You obviously had to plant that person. How hard did you think it was to shoot somewhere and not see fucking skeleton mask everywhere?
Well, it was one specific kind.
But you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of skeleton masks.
Right. Well, I mean, it's amazing, like, how unobservant people can be. I mean, I even shock myself sometimes with how unobservant I am. Like, things I don't notice. Like, wow, really? Again, like, yeah, you're counting on someone to be able to see you.
Yeah.
Again, it's goofy. Basically, it didn't really matter.
No.
I mean, because ultimately they didn't do anything with the person that they found. Like, they found them. And that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Like, they wear those masks, so it's easier for them. But if they have a team of people looking, they will, you know, it's not that hard to find. But if you're looking for one person in Bourbon Street, good fucking luck. Yeah. On Halloween, of all places, you know?
Yeah, that's absurd. And let me ask you this. How much do you think this would cost, considering they went across multiple states?
What do you mean? Oh, like their trip?
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, they seem like a bunch of spoiled-ass rich kids.
Well, how much would Blue Skeleton have cost for them to be tracked across multiple states?
Well, yeah, I mean, you're basically hiring people, so it would be, well,
$1,000 a person?
Well, again, who knows? I mean, I don't know what they're talking about. You know, I don't know what they're saying. Like, these people are so into the experience that they do it, like, for free because they didn't charge any money.
There's no way.
I don't know what point they're making there. You know, like the Joker says, if you're good at something, don't do it for free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why they would do it for free. Like, I get it, like, to, like, go after the people who review haunted houses, like, to put them through an experience that terrifies them and that you get a shit ton of business after that. That I get, if that was their point. But again, no consent stuff, kidnapping people, you know, oh, we're going to get viral off of this. Like, what does that do? You're not charging for services.
Right.
Like, so you're not going to make any money off of it. Obviously, you can't be monetized for something that was not consensual.
Yep.
Like, it wouldn't, like, okay, we'll go into the second one a little bit here, but the like those videos, if they're not consensual videos, they have to be taken down.
Yep. It contains harmful stuff.
Right. It doesn't matter if it's got 1 billion views on it. If it's something that the person says, I did not consent to that video, and it's proven, then you have to take it down. There's no way they'd make any money off of it. And again, if the video keeps getting taken down, like, it doesn't make any sense. That's the whole thing. The motives of Blue Skeleton don't make sense. Like, I don't know what point they were trying to make or what, like, oh, these are like super extreme people that do it just for the love of it. Like, okay, then why are they doing it to non-consensual people?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense. Oh, they're doing it just to, like, scare people. Okay, why? Like, we don't get any backstory at all to, like, justify why they're doing it.
Right, and that's the thing. Like, this is a multiple-day thing, right? How many can they do a year around Halloween? One.
They can literally do one.
Yeah.
Per team. One per team. Right.
So it's going to be astronomically, absurdly priced.
Right. Yeah, you're talking. It would be like $10,000 per person.
Yes,
that's probably on the low end.
Yeah. So it's ridiculous.
I agree.
All right, so I'll let you go first. We're doing our olives this episode, our skeleton masks, because, you know, why not? So how many skeleton masks out of 10 do you give this?
Okay, the positive points here are really for the documentary part, which I thought was fun and interesting. 3. 3 skeleton masks out of 10, and that's only because I did like the first half of this. The second half I hated a lot.
I don't know. Obviously, we have different points of view. That's like I said, we say this a lot. This is why there's two of us to balance things out. I really enjoy this movie, like for what it is. So I think the positives definitely outweigh the negatives. I said this is just a fantastic documentary, if nothing else. So I actually will go to 7.5 skeleton masks out of 10. I rewatch this a lot.
I'm sorry.
So. All right, well, why don't you take us through the Houses That October Built 2 from 2017?
Okay. Houses That October Built 2 starts with the ending of the Houses That October Built, right? That was not present.
Mm-hmm.
And that we see that they buried essentially Brandy, but they do show a little bit of footage of the other people in coffins, but barely in. And she's the big viral star. They call her Coffin Girl.
Mm-hmm.
And she has millions and millions and millions of views. She's big in the community now.
Which, so unmonetized, as we discussed.
Well, it would have been, but they're acting as if it is, right? They're acting as if Blue Skeleton is now this big, huge thing because they're so viral, which is I was sitting there going how is that legal? How is that allowed to be there? That doesn't make any sense, but whatever. That's the least of my problems with this film. But anyway, so the basically the 5 assholes, the 4 assholes decide that the next year, literally 1 year later, they're going to do another tour of haunted houses, but this time they're going to get paid for it because now they're big names in this community, and so they want them to go there and be part of their documentary or whatever. Mm-hmm. To advertise their thing. But their big draw is, of course, Coffin Girl, because she's the one that brought in all of those viral views. And, like they say in the film, nobody gives a shit about 4 dudes, that survived this thing. They want to see the cute girl that was in the coffin, right? That's why she was the big star. And she wants absolutely fucking nothing to do with it.
Rightfully so.
Absolutely. Why she even talked to them? They went to her house hey, we got a question to ask. Why she didn't go get the fuck off my property is beyond me.
Mm-hmm.
I would hope that at the end of this film, she would have that reaction, but holy shit, are they assholes? It's immediate in this film. In the first film, it took a little bit for you to understand, oh, these are just assholes. In this film, it's immediate. They are immediately assholes. They're immediately talking about, oh, we can convince her, no problem. Just a bunch of dicks. Anyway, so they go off and they do a bunch of these, kind of advertising things, right? Where they're interviewing the people that own these haunts, and again, they're very into it, and it is an interesting documentary part of it. Except when we get to the custom, original content where they have to talk about some blue skeleton or the hellbent,
yeah,
right? When they're talking about that, then it's they can't even look at the camera, they're mumbling, they're not good at acting. I feel bad for them that they made them do that, but again, it's their original content is right away not good. But it's the same thing as the blue skeleton, to where they're doing this stuff oh, you want extreme, you got to go find the hellbent. Where's that? I don't know. It's okay, thanks, demon guy. But it's so they do that a bunch of times, and they basically get to this one where it's I guess it's the one that was going to pay them the most amount of money. And if they basically say they're coming there without Coffin Girl, and he says, oh, if Coffin Girl ain't with you, don't bother.
Right.
So it's this is their big kind of cash cow for this whole trip. And if Coffin Girl isn't there, then they're not doing it. And this one's probably the tamest of all of them, because it was a haunted hayride.
Yeah. Well, the most annoying people, though.
Correct. So anyway, they finally convince her to go on this thing because 1, it's a lot of money. 2, it's just a haunted hayride. 3, they literally guilt trip her into we're so broke, we're not gonna be able to make rent if we don't do this because they're giving us lots of money, blah blah. Stupid bullshit. Whatever. They guilt trip her into finally coming out there. She comes out there and she basically immediately goes back into the same personality she had before. She just kind of goes along with everything. I feel bad for her. Anyway, so they do the haunted hayride thing, which is fairly uneventful. They do where they also hear about Hellbent again. Then they do like this. They call it a zombie pub crawl. It was not a zombie pub crawl. I don't know why they called it a zombie pub crawl, because it was just like an outdoor festival.
It was an eating contest.
Right. It was an outdoor festival with an eating contest with a fucking stage, and like they had like literally like concession stands for beer and shit. Like, that's not a pub crawl. I've been on lots of pub crawls. That's not a pub crawl. A pub crawl is you go to one bar, you have a drink, and then you go to the next bar and you have a drink, and you keep going down the road. And that's why there's certain roads made for pub crawl.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Chicago, they have one. They have a zombie one. They have a zombie pub crawl. It's literally everybody dresses up as a zombie and does that. They have a beer at one bar, then they go to the next bar, and like so on and so forth. They called this a pub crawl, and it's just a festival. It's bizarre. Yeah. Anyway, they all get dressed up. They go to this festival. They get all drunk. They have an eating contest with Kobayashi, the big hot dog winner guy. Well, he was the big hot dog winner guy before Chestnut was around.
Yes.
But he's still good. I think he's retired now, but whatever. So they were eating, I don't know what disgusting thing they were eating. They called it brains, but it was like, I don't know, something gross wrapped in a tortilla.
Yes.
I don't know what it was. They showed them kind of making it like before it happened, and I don't know. They looked like little nuggets of like oatmeal or something. I don't know what it was, but it was gross looking. I felt bad for whoever had to eat that because it looked nasty. But anyway, so they, it's just a big kind of party. And then they, show that, fucking Blue Skeleton is watching them again.
With the blue tinted camera.
Yeah, which it's them because it's always blue tinted camera. Whatever. So they go to, it's essentially the same plot as the first one, where they're going to a bunch of these, haunted house things, and there's little bits and pieces of like, oh, they see people that they've seen before. Like they see the Slipknot baby girl in one of the haunted houses, like they hear people talking that weren't you in the other place, or whatever, like little hints and pieces and shit, right?
Seek out Hellbent.
Yeah, they keep saying seek out Hellbent. There's literally like a sign on the side of the road that says that. There's multiple people that tell them that. They're like, oh, I guess we should try to figure this out. And then of course, like the whole movie just jumps the shark. And like they park their RV one day, and then they like literally stick like sleeping gas in the windows of the RV to knock them all out, and then they drive them to Hellbent.
To a different state.
Correct. Yeah, they drive them to like from I don't know where they were, but they like to Georgia or I don't know.
Oh, they were in Georgia and ended up in like North Carolina.
Yeah, there you go. Whatever it was. They drove them, so they wake up at like 4 p.m. the next day going like, where are we? Oh my God, where are we? Even though they have exterior cameras all over this fucking thing, except for like, hey, maybe we should check the fucking cameras that are everywhere to see what happened. Nope. They just immediately accept this because they look outside. They're like, oh man, there's clowns out there.
And they're locked in. And like, we'll have to wait till dark.
Yeah, we can't get out until dark. So yeah, the dark, and then they just walk out of the RV as if everybody's all okay with doing all this.
Yep.
And they're like guided in, not grabbed or pushed. No, they're guided into this room where they put on these hoodies that zip up all the way past their face. And then they're like, supposedly chloroformed and knocked out. And then, of course, it's Brandy is the one that wakes up. And then she gets like basically shown from like haunted house room to haunted house room to haunted house room of all the other people, all the other guys getting tortured.
Or killed.
Or, well, supposedly
set on fire.
Killed. Right. One guy's getting like, waterboarded with fake blood. One guy's like getting his arm chainsawed off. One guy was just hung. The farm boy always gets the lamest thing. He was just hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, they don't even see it.
Yeah,
he's just there.
Yeah, he's just there. And it's like, and then they go into the room, and of course, baby doll girl is there again. And she's like watching. She leads her to another room where they're watching a movie, and like it cuts.
We flash back to it, yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, but that part we see her showing them to see the movie part, but we don't see what the movie is.
Mm-hmm.
Then it cuts to her being outside with the, very obviously the 4 guys that were just supposedly being killed with masks on, like, kind of cornering Brandy, like outside of, like, I don't know, it looks like a prison or like an old bunker. I don't know what the hell that was. But anyway, so they corner her. They bring out like a little baby casket, and she opens up the baby casket, and inside is a gun. And they immediately panic, like, "Oh my God, don't shoot us! Oh no, we're just kidding." And then she like turns the gun on herself and pulls the trigger, which really kind of pisses me off, because in the beginning of the film, when the guy is literally, there's a newscaster guy giving you the ending of the last movie, right? Saying that, oh yeah, she was dug up and left on the side of the road. Nobody was actually hurt. Here's us starting the second movie. Like basically they had to like end it for him. But
well, it happened a year later and there's bloodshed. Yeah,
he said like this bloody ending, this horrible ending to this tragic bloody ending to the story. Like, no, in no way was this a tragic bloody ending. Like, it's intentionally wrong. Like, again, there's many ways they could have worded that to actually stay truthful. They intentionally said it wrong so that you think that that's what happened.
Right.
But again, and then we flash back to the movie that she watches on the wall. Is we go back to the first film, and we see that, yeah, they did film the other 4 guys in caskets, which, again, the other 4 guys were in metal caskets that had pillows and blankets.
Right.
So whereas Brandy was in a pine box. I was like, wow, like, immediately you can see how big of assholes they are just from that fact. But 2, we see that they only filmed a short time in their coffin, and then when they opened up their coffin, they were just all sitting in like a warehouse room, and they were in no danger.
Yeah.
They did the full burial thing to Brandy, and they were in on it with Blue Skeleton. Yep. So they like, whatever. So she went through all this trauma and shit. And, didn't want to get involved again because of all that trauma, and yet they did it to her again. So this time around, they planned this whole thing. They worked with Blue Skeleton from the very beginning to make sure that Brandy got to see all this horrible shit, and that they were going to get, famous in the end for scaring Coffin Girl again, or what. I don't know what the fuck their plan was.
Bigger assholes.
Yeah, again, they become bigger assholes, but again, their plan does not make any sense.
No. Other than, we're actually getting paid this time.
Right, like, but who is paying them for the Blue Skeleton thing?
Right.
Like, Blue Skeleton ain't gonna pay you.
Right.
Like, you want to be on the Blue Skeleton radar, they're not gonna pay you. That's just you doing a big stunt. But again, where are you gonna make the money from? Because all the stuff related to this is gonna be unmonetized.
Yep.
And taken down, because obviously Brandy's gonna be like, fuck you guys.
Yep.
I don't understand. It's like the people who made this don't understand like how YouTube works, and I don't get it. I just don't understand what the point of this was. So yeah, essentially the whole thing was them fucking over Brandy again. So we see, like, in the first movie, they did indeed fuck over Brandy on purpose in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the second one, they did it to her again. And then Blue Skeleton pulled a little switcheroo to where when she opened the baby casket, it was supposed to be a check of money for her.
Yep.
And instead it was a gun. And that was the trick on them, right? That the Blue Skeleton pulled was like, oh, you guys got pranked because you thought she was just going to get money and laugh. And then she got a gun and killed herself.
Yep.
So that was the big switch. And then she just gets up from shooting herself, and she's like depressed and upset. Obviously, yes. And then just kind of goes, fuck you guys. And that's the end.
Yep.
So like the movie's even dumber. The second one's even dumber than the first one. Sorry, I know that's my opinion, but I'm saying it's even dumber than the first one. Because again, it's like, yeah, the 4 guys were obviously consenting because they were in on it both times, right? But again, Brandy, the star of it, did not consent to this.
Yep.
In any way. So, like, you can't use the footage. The videos would be taken down, and they could definitely not be monetized. So, like, I'm sure you'd get some notoriety out of it, but you're not going to make any money out of it.
Right.
I don't know. The whole thing is bizarre to me.
Remember, Seek Out Helmet is an anagram for the Blue Skeleton.
Oh, fucking. See, obviously, this is the first time I've watched this. This will hopefully be the last time I watch this. I don't ever want to be involved in this again. that's really all I have to say about that.
Yeah, I mean, the second one is, I think it has lots of issues, which obviously we'll get into, that it shouldn't have been made, honestly. And if they ever do a third one and Brandy comes back, I think everyone would quit. Like, this is stupid. Like, she shouldn't have even been involved with this time.
Okay, well, here, on the off chance that these people listen to this in any way whatsoever, I will give you the only plot line that makes sense for the third film. The only plot line that makes sense is that Brandy works with Blue Skeleton behind the scenes to make them have the worst possible fucking time ever.
Yes.
She's not in the film. Right? She's not in there. She's not like, you know, playing like, oh yeah, I'll go with you guys again. No, because that's stupid. We already did that once. We're not doing it again. She does not appear in the film at all. And then all this horrible shit happens to them, and at the very end, they find out it was her that did it to them.
I agree.
That's the only thing that makes sense.
They need to be put through hell.
Right. They need to be put through all the same fucking bullshit they put her through. They need to do that stuff. There needs to be a lot of scenes where they get intimidated and scared by big people or lots of groups of big people, and they get to feel as fearful as she did through the first fucking 2 films where they like forced her to do all the shit that she did not want to do. So they need to be like forced into doing shit that they don't want to do. They need to be actually really scared, and she needs to be behind it. There's your plot for number 3. You're welcome.
There you go. All right. So why don't you start with your highlights?
Okay. So highlights. I did like the intro, right? I mean, it gave an ending to the first film. There's really no explanation as to why they're doing it again. And there's really nothing there. It's a bizarre kind of like segue into it. That doesn't make any narrative sense whatsoever. But I did like it because it was really nonsensical. I was laughing because it was so just out there. Yeah, but again, they were more honest this time that they needed Brandy, right? They needed Brandy because she was the face, right? She was the thing that everybody wanted to see. Nobody cared about them. They only wanted her to be there. At least they were honest about that. At least they didn't, I mean, yeah, they were like arrogant, like trying to like do it without her, but at least they finally broke down and was like, yeah, we can't do it without her. We're not going to make any money. Like, at least they got that far, right? At least they were honest themselves with that. They seemed very upset about it, but that's just the fact. I did like the actual fear therapist. Like when Brandy agrees to come back, they bring in a fear therapist for her to like deal with what she went through in the first one, which is again makes them look even fucking worse at the end, right? Because they did that to her, and then they had the nerve to bring in a fucking therapist to help her into the shit they put her through in the second one. Like, what kind of shitbags are you? But yeah, but I did like that whole scene. It was like a very like kind of honest and open scene where Brandy was like, they were like touring a prison, and she was not interested in the prison at all. She was very interested in like hearing about how she can deal with her issues that she's having, essentially like PTSD that she's having.
Right.
And I thought it was very well done. It was very like an honest shot. I did like that part. And then finally, fucking Brandy gets a goddamn backbone at the very end of this. It's still kind of a meek backbone, but at least she fucking fights back sometimes, like at least she talked back to them a little bit before. And then at the very end, she had the backbone to like go through with it.
Right.
I did appreciate that. That's all I got.
I think that the production quality on this was better. Like, it wasn't just GoPros, and like there was like legit filming. They had the drone and all that stuff. So
they had a much nicer RV.
That too.
It was like a luxury RV this time.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like I said, they had more money for this one, and I think it shows, right? With with the flame, with the chainsaw, so they actually had a bigger budget, and I think they used it well. with the bigger budget. So I do appreciate that. Once again, a lot of the stuff seems fun. The idea of a 5K where you're being chased by zombies, fun. It's almost a mud runner because they have to go through like, thigh deep water and stuff like that.
You're right. The idea of it is great. My fat ass would not be participating. There's no way. I would get caught immediately. And then I would be like, oh, that was great. I can't even experience the end because I'm dead. And like, I'm not going to catch anybody either because I can't run. So whatever. Like I would have to like camouflage myself and like pop up out of the mud and grab people or something.
Right.
But the idea of it, yes, I agree. Very cool.
I like that they went to not just haunted places. They showed other haunts. Like I said, the hayride. Haunted hayrides are a big thing. It happens. But like I said, the quote pub crawl, the 5K, they showed different aspects of the same thing. They even showed the escape room, right? So I appreciate they did other things than just more haunted houses. And showing that, over the past couple of years between these have been made, haunted houses grew. So I like to see where it is, 7 years later, quite honestly, because lots of things have changed. You could have VR experiences. You could do a lot more with it. So that's why I'd want to see a third one as technology changes and stuff like that. Like I said, a lot of stuff definitely, like I said, seems really fun. I would do a lot of that stuff. We've done an escape room. I would do that zombie escape room, hands down. It seemed fun. And the documentary part, people really enjoy talking about their shit, and it shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that part is fun. Like when they're actually like, talking about like the guy talking about the escape room. Like, yeah, he had like a heavy accent, like a heavy Russian accent, but like he was genuinely excited and like genuinely proud of what he made. And it was great. And again, it's like all these scenes just kind of like are great until they go, oh, well, you got to go to Hellbent, and then like they're very like, it's a very tacked on thing. And it's just like, why are you bothering to make these people say this shit?
Well, let's face it. He sounded like he was saying "seek helmet."
Yeah, I was like, how do you get hell bent out of that?
I don't know.
I mean, in the script, it says you understand what he says, but in real life, I'm like, I have no fucking clue what he said.
Right. I also like the fact that they, last time they did the South, they did North stuff. They went to the Anoka, Wisconsin or Minnesota, right, where trick or treat supposedly started. So they paid heritage to the roots of Halloween in America. That is a real place, obviously. Do I think those old people were actors? No. Do I think that maybe homeless guy was an actor? No, I think he was legit there, and they talked to real people. So once again, the documentary part was just fantastic. Now, they talked about laser titties, and we got laser titties, kind of. So they delivered on their promise of laser titties.
Simulated nudity.
Yes.
It wasn't actual nudity. It was simulated nudity. And they did warn them ahead of time. You see what I mean about the consent thing? Like if they're like afraid that you might be offended by nudity, they have to make sure they tell you there is simulated nudity involved.
Right.
You see, that's that scene. But like that guy was touching them. That guy was like, swearing at him and yelling at him and like making him do shit, right?
Yep.
Because they signed a consent form and they said that was okay.
Right.
But again, when he was walking him in, he gave them their safe word.
Uncle. Yeah. Right. The woman announced, like, for any reason you need to get out, you shout uncle and we will immediately stop and get you out.
Right. That's what the extreme haunted house thing is about. That's like the whole thing. And that's what pisses me off about this whole, like, oh, the Blue Skeleton are all about non-consent. Like, no, that's a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I said, and I think that they took criticism from the first one and go, okay, here's how someone's able to sneak in. So they did the sleeping gas, right? I think they took to heart some of the complaints people had and gave reasons why they are knocked out for a long period of time. So I think they did a good job of trying to fill in the plot holes as best as they could from the first one.
Well, I think they were slapping some flex tape on the big holes in the jar, but I don't think they patched them all.
No, they got big ones. They still had a little, death by 1,000 paper cuts. Right. I'll roll into my low points. coffin girl. She should never fucking come back, no matter what. Like, she's like, oh, we're still friends. I still love you guys. Like, if my group of friends did that to me, I would never talk to them again. I wouldn't give them the time of day.
In the beginning, she was like trying to be friendly and that was like a survival tactic.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think she actually gave a shit about those people. She was doing that as a survival tactic because if you're a woman with 4 dudes and you're being very confrontational, like, the odds of you getting hurt in some way are probably very high.
Yeah.
So if she did agree to come back for the money or the guilt, whatever reason she really came back, like, yeah, now she has to play survival mode. She has to placate these people around her because that's what women are taught to do. Yeah. Like, that's how women, like, make themselves safe, is they placate the people around them. It's sad that she had to do that. It's sad that they show that, but that's in reality what happened. I don't think she was overly excited to be there. I think that was a survival
thing. Yeah. Vomit.
Oh, man.
Like, it was bad enough watching them eat it.
Yeah, it's bad enough watching them eat these, like, undercooked oatmeal chunks or whatever the fuck they were eating. I don't know. They called it brains, but it looked fucking gross.
Right.
And then they show them, like, puking in a fucking dumpster for, like, it feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't that long, but it felt way too long.
Yes. They had vomit budget. So
yeah, the same dude. More like scream puking into the fucking dumpster. It's like, dude, calm down. Don't push air past your vocal cords. Just let yourself throw
up. The blue skeleton footage was stupid. Like, there's so many times they're seeming like right in front of them. Like, right in front of them. They're like, oh, I wouldn't notice this person wearing a skeleton mask. Yes, you would. I don't appreciate the footage. Like, they're even in the helicopter. Like, no, that's absurd.
Yeah, I mean, I know. They were just trying to show them, like, look how connected they are. Yeah. They did. There was an interesting thing, I guess I left out of my highs, is that if you watch the crowds and, like, you know, when they're at the different events and shit like that, there is the guy wearing that one skull mask. There are several people wearing that blue skull mask from the first movie. Mm-hmm. The baby doll girl is present, like, at least 2 or 3 different times, like, just standing in the crowd of places. So it's like they did have a little more subtlety of placement, like showing that there was like a team of people following them the whole time.
Yeah.
You know, because again, like, it's easy to call out like, oh my God, look at that. But no, it was like they just subtly had them there. And that was interesting.
Yeah. Once again, they know that Brandy went through all this shit. They know that essentially she didn't talk to them for almost a year. And they do it even worse to her this time around.
Right. Yeah. They con her into coming back. They guilt trip her into coming back. And then they literally, do horrible shit to her again. Oh, but in their mind, it's fine because she's getting money. Like, okay, asshole.
Right. At that point in time, she should get all the money.
No shit. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, you should be telling her that all of this money is for her.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, they do not get their comeuppance. They, as you said, I like your idea for number 3, is they need to essentially get, like, fucking Me Too. They need to get, like, hacked. They need to do all this shit. Essentially, they need to go, like, McKamey Manor.
Yeah. Again, like I said, those 3 things need to happen. They need to get scared. They need to show them actually being fearful, because they really don't do that. They always do tough guy scared. Mm-hmm. They need to show them being really scared, and they need to show them being intimidated into doing things they don't want to do, because that's what poor Brandy had to go through the first 2 times.
Yes.
And the 3rd time, they need to go through horrible fucking shit, and that they have to find out that she's fucking behind it. Yeah. But again, she should not be present for the rest of the film. She should not be there placating them again. No.
Yeah.
She should have learned her lesson from the 2nd time. Her wanting to get revenge on them, that makes sense. But her wanting to be a part of it, no, that does not make sense. So if you're going to do a 3rd one, do not. I understand Brandy is probably the big draw for people to watch your film, but in order for it to work narratively, I know they really don't give a shit about that, but in order for it to work narratively, she needs to be the ending.
Yeah. Those are my low points. What are your low points?
Okay, my personal low point: touching haunted houses. No. I mean, I understand, dude. It's some of those experiences are really cool. I've heard a lot of people talk about how interesting and fun they are, and stuff. I can't deal with people I don't know touching me. I don't like it. I think when they're walking through a lot of these haunted houses, I don't know if they're just assholes or what, but like they have the big fucking lamp light on their camera on the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think most of the scary stuff that happens in a haunted house is because it is dark.
It's pitch
right?
black.
Yeah, it's pitch black. There's things that pop up around corners. There's like strobe lights and things like that that make the atmosphere scary, right? Mm-hmm. And like when walking through there with a giant fucking spotlight, I mean, cancels out like 75% of the atmosphere. And so like they do entire tours of fucking haunted houses with this giant spotlight on. Like, why the people even agreed to that is beyond me. Like the haunted house people be like, no, shut your light off. Like, yeah, you can film it, but shut the light off. You're ruining the whole ambiance of my haunt, right?
Yeah.
But no, they multiple ones they went through with just giant fucking flashlight on. It was very stupid. I feel like Zach was watching some Adam Scott movies. Like, I feel like he literally like made himself look like Adam Scott and like tried to act like him, like deliberately. I don't know what happened, but it wasn't like that in the first movie. And in this movie, he was like trying to channel Adam Scott badly. He did not do it well. But there was multiple times where I'm like, are you trying to be, Adam Scott? Like, what are you doing? It was bad. Of course, the puking scene, excessive, stupid. Stop, please. Yeah, somehow I think the acting was worse in this one than it was in the first one. I don't know how that's even possible, but it is. It felt worse in this one. I think, like I said, the only one I think did a good job was Brandy, and I don't think a lot of people understood that. Like, again, like a lot of people are like, oh, she just came back and she's super nice to them immediately? What the hell? No, that was a survival tactic. Like, I think she was actually doing a good job showing how she would like try to reintegrate with that group in order to protect herself. Because if she's antagonistic towards them, of course they're going to put her in all the worst shit. Of course they're going to try to intentionally scare her. Now, if she placates them and tries to pretend like, she's someone that they need to protect, maybe they won't do that to her. And I think that's why she's doing that. Not because she wants to be part of them again, but because she's trying to protect herself from being terrified and put through more trauma. But I think she's the only one that did a passable job. But again, what fucking assholes. Like, these guys, again, like, yeah, they get scared because she's got a gun. That ain't enough.
No.
That ain't enough. But they did this shit to her twice. We find out that the whole first movie was them just doing it to her, too. And then this movie is literally a second version of that, only this time she's supposed to get a check. Like, wow, that makes it better? You had to convince her to come back with a fucking therapist. And then you do it to her again.
Yep.
But yeah, the ending was just stupid. It's like, I don't know. There should have been a hell of a lot more done against them. Just, there needs to be more done against them. Come back and do the third one and just put these people through hell. They probably won't, because I know the guy who made it is one of the actors.
Right.
But they should. They should be tortured.
Yes. I completely agree. All right. Is that all your low points?
That's it.
All right. So I will go first for number of skeleton masks out of 10. This is not as good as the first one. Like I said, there's definitely the documentary part, hands down, best part of this movie. I will give this, though, 6 skeleton masks out of 10. How about you?
Yeah, this one loses a point. Because, yeah, again, the documentary part of this is fun. Like, some of the places they go to, they look fun, but they make those poor people act in their shit movie. And that hurts me. That hurts my feelings. So, yeah, but this one's definitely worse than the first one. I give this one a 2.
2?
2 skeleton masks out of 10.
All right. Anything to add before we wrap this up?
No.
All right. Well, we may be out of the backwoods and returned our rented Winnebago. We are not out of the haunted houses yet. So join us as we gather our EMF detectors, use Kinect sensors for the first time because they finally have a use for SLS cameras, and hold a silence for those killed during too extreme of a haunted house. We will be hunting ghosts with the first 3 Hell House LLC movies. Yes, there is currently 4 with a 5th on its way, but we'll be revisiting that when that one comes out. So let's hope someone finds her footage when we are gone. Then remember, we watch bad movies, so you don't have to. And this has been Graveyard saying, have you checked on the children?
This is Salem saying, long live the new flesh.
Good night.